Today I'm making an eternity ring, a half a carat diamond eternity ring, which throws all that you know about eternity rings out the window, and we have to rethink everything about how to construct it and also how to fight it, because it's quite a strong metal, platinum, that I'm working in, my favorite metal. We are incredibly close, but it is grouped together in a thickness that's going to be challenging. My name is Jaco, that's the Maya behind the camera. Let's make an eternity ring. I'm going to make this ring in silver. Why am I making this ring twice? I'm not putting the same effort into the silver ring as what I would in the platinum ring. It's going to give the customer an exact idea on how it's going to feel on the finger. It gives me exact measurements to work with. I'm going to pick up any changes that I'd like to incorporate into my platinum ring. It's a chunky piece of metal, it's an expensive piece of metal, and I want to get it right. I'm now rolling that piece of platinum. Now remember, if you're going straight through a roller, you're going to compress the material straight, so it's going to get length. If you turn it ever so slightly sideways, you're going to get length, obviously, but you're also going to get a bit of width. Now with platinum, and especially with something this thick, it's not going to listen to you. It's not going to correspond with me as silver did. I'm going to heat it up so that it softens, and I can harden it, and I can anneal it again and soften it more often than I would do with gold or silver, for instance. We're going for a round ring, obviously. I have this ring bending tool, which I tried, but it simply didn't have enough power. So I had to come up with another idea. I went back to when I didn't have any of these tools, and I took a ball punch and I put it into a vice grip, and I used force with a hammer to make it round. And honestly, that's one of the better ways to bend a thick piece of material. It's going to get a bit of damage, but I'm thinking ahead. I know where I can allow a bit of damage. So I'm never on exactly where I need to be. I'm always slightly over. I can take the actual silver ring I made and slip it onto a ring stick. This gives me an indication, again, like a stencil. If I end on that line, I know the size will be absolutely perfect. I'm going to fuse the ring because it's such a thick wall, and I know that fusing it, I can give it incredible heat. It's the strongest joint in this particular case. I choose a little off-cut part, and I'm just rolling it as flat as I can get it. I cut a little shape out of it and I slide it into the ring. What does it mean to fuse? It means that there are no solder joints. There's no place it's going to open up when I'm polishing. It's platinum on platinum. Essentially, the ring has now been brought back to a solid state. The metal itself, while I'm trying to get it round on a triplet, will show you where it is touching. I'm looking in the inside of the ring, I can see where there's like a burnished area, so it's more glossy, and then you'll have areas which are more matte, so they haven't made contact with that triplet yet. I'm marking where those matte areas are because I know these are areas where I can focus now. It's good practice because the same application you could be using in any kind of ring, and some metals will definitely take more of an impact. So I mark it on the outside to give me an indication of where to focus really. I'm still heating the ring as I'm going along, but I'm focusing my harder hits on this particular area. Remember, when you're bending a material, it tends to form out slightly to the end. Some little distortion that comes from it. If I'm just going to file it, I'm going to be losing some of its volume. I'm flattening it as well as I can, so that when I bring a file to the side of it, I've got minimal amount of filing, hence minimal losses. So anything bigger, of course, it's more difficult to work with. It's a difficult thing to hold in the sense that it's going to become warmer when you're working with it. If your grip is a little loose and you're moving, you're losing resistance, which means you've got less efficiency on your work. I've created this tool to basically hold the ring from the inside, clamp it so that I can work in a certain angle without having the ring move around much. It's controlled. How are we going to drop these stones? How high must I make the wall to drop these stones so that they're as close as possible so we don't have these gaps and it's just a continuation. I'm going to do a center line all the way through, and once I've done the center line, I'm going to take a single point and make a mark, and I'm going to start dividing all the way around in equal parts so that I get from the point where I start dividing 13 stones.
And how did you determine that?
The outside diameter, the outside part, that width times pi, you actually get a flat line, and you can divide that into 13. It will give you an indication where to start. Keep in mind what this ring is going to be doing. Most of this is going to be carved away, so those little marks I'm making are irrelevant, and I can then cut 13 lines. I'm going to actually be creating those claws by cutting out the scallops. I'm taking the 13 lines that I've cut, and because there's this perfect line now, I can take a divider and I can make a line by putting the divider in the groove to the one side and cut another 13 lines, thus creating 13 little segments, which I consider to be little areas which are no-go zones. I'm not going to touch those. I want to create scallops from the side. On the edges of these grooves is where my claws are going to sit. I can now take the width of that line, turn my divider to the side, and mark all the way around, creating little squares. Those little squares are going to be the only thing of the surface at the top that I'm not going to be touching. That's my claw. The depth of the scallops on the side is the next thing that you've got to consider. Usually, and in this case as well, it's about half. Eventually I need to cut from this one right down to the bottom and back up again. Now that's a thick piece of platinum. I didn't expect to cut absolute perfect slices out of it, but a general idea, and also staying safe. So I'm not going to cut past the slots. I'm starting with them. I'm cutting inwards, so I'm not going to be cutting downwards, and I'm going towards the center but not lower than the center. If I can create a basic idea of a groove, I'm benefiting by getting all these solid pieces of platinum that I'm cutting off, which I can reuse later on. Again, I'm thinking ahead because platinum is pretty expensive material and you treat it as such. It's time to clean it up, so I'm going to bring in a ball phrase, I'm going to bring in a hand file. So I'm really only having to concentrate on the two parts on the ends here. But you'll very quickly find that if you've done one of these little half rounds slightly to the edge, and this is why you're working lighter, because we can keep continuously work down towards the line. We've got our limits where we can go to, and we've got our limits to the side to go to. Now we're just looking for the nicest little pattern that you can get. I'm dividing the center of the ring again, where the scallops have been done, the center, because I'm going to be dropping in cavities into that section, and I would like to find the middle point. I'm going to be scalloping the section out in between the claws. I'm taking those scallops on the inside between the claws away quite a bit so that I can drop those stones in with absolute comfort. Technically, you can drop them down as low as what the scallops are on the sides, and we'll still have enough support there. But particularly in this case, I went down just before the end of where the other scallop reached, so I can have a little bit of a wall there that I could polish up. But this is the rough shaping of something, right? A needle file tapers, so I'm looking for a basic point in this taper where I know, right, I'm around about the point where I want to stop. I know where to push and where to stop so that it's equivalent to the next one. The stones are going to be in there, so I need them to have space to be seated in. I don't want to take too much away. We're not trying to save the platinum. I'm trying to make a ring that will last generations. I need to carve out just enough platinum so that if I bring the stone in, that it sinks itself into the ring. So the belly basically has some place to be seated. There's two things that are going to happen on the side of the ring. Three things that's going to happen on the side. I don't want to emphasize that wall. I'm going to be taking the scallops and dropping them down. Again, I'm making a mark down so that I know exactly where to I'm going to take that slant. I'm starting with just a rough excavation, and then I'm working my way down with smoother things. That's the first thing. The second part that I'm going to be using to break that height is by doing a little bit of an angle on the inside of the ring. I'm not going with a full rounding this time. I'm leaving quite a flat surface, but I'm breaking a perfect angle. From the inside of the ring outwards, I'm creating a little break of that total wall height, so less of an impact on the eye. And the third one will come in with the set work, where I then carve from the bottom up to split those claws onto each one of the stones. This was the making video of this not only how to make the ring, but why I use the techniques and what you can use in the workshop to create a ring like this in your workshop. I'm going to stop here. We're not done with this ring. The next video we will be putting out, I'll show you exactly how I went about setting these diamonds. I hope that this kind of content is something that inspires you. I hope that there's something that you're getting out of this. From Damia and myself, we really appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of it all. See you in the next episode.